At least I thought there was. Hey, there we go. Welcome everybody to our first lunch and learn of the new year. Hope everyone had a good, fun New Year's Day and New Year's Eve. I'll be your host for today's first lunch and learn of 2025, Jared. And if you have any questions, feel free to pop it in the Q&A, and I'll be able to answer to the best of my abilities, and I can demonstrate it, or we can have a conversation about it. Oh, thanks, Jeff. All right, but we are here excited to start off the new year with some questions and all that stuff. Ooh, we already got one. Let's see. Scheduled jobs, are they single threaded? That's the first question. Let's see. Let's see. I think there's probably a way we can test that out. If not, actually, probably wouldn't be a way to test it. Are they single threaded? What I'm going to say, I'm confident to say this, but I'll also ask, is I want to say yes. I believe they are single threaded unless you design that scheduled job flow to run on different thread job queues. Oh, let's see. So let's see. Is there a way are scheduled jobs single threaded? I'm asking internally. I'll also ask this in the dev channel as well. Support dev. Our scheduled jobs single thread. Best way to, I'm reading the wrong one, Jeff. Is there a way then to allow them not to be? I think most of it would default, because it's just a flow. Here's what I would advise. I would have to test this to be sure. But I know if you go to scheduled jobs, and if we go, let's create a new scheduled job flow. I don't think there's anything run only on job server, run on job startup. Um, Actually, yeah. So I guess I don't think there is a way to be, unfortunately, because I think this is the job queue, so all of it would be on that queue. I was thinking that what you could do is you could have a flow. Let me just create this as I'm thinking, but this probably won't work. This test scheduled job. I gotta pick it. I have to pick a flow. Oh, why am I doing it here? I forgot I'm in version 9. More demo over here. Manage jobs and events, scheduled jobs, create a new scheduled job flow. This is test scheduled job. Let's see, this is the default queue is there, and then I'm gonna say test forms out. That's actually not a good one. Let me not do that. Oh, there you go. It's just that. As I was wondering if maybe there's a way, there's a way you could multi-thread where if you have it's like a branch and merge or something. Branch. A branch step and then a merge step. Now, by default, this isn't parallel processing. Um, this is basically for parallel tasking. Like if I had to add task steps here, boom, and then that's kind of what it's for. But there is a way you could parallel processing if it's combining this, and I always forget what it is. It's like, and then I think it's the start linked flow async step. So let's add two processes that run. And then on this stuff, notice that on the use the work queue, if I specify a different work queue on both, can I say manage execute? There we go. I can manage the execution threads, and I can say the thread job, this one's going to be Jared1, if I can spell my name. And then this one would be manage execution threads, and I'll have this run on a different thread. I believe this is one way where you could do multi-threading in flows because you're running two processes and then you're telling them to be on different threads. I think that's how it might work. I would definitely test this out in dev to see if that actually if that will behave that way. But I think that's the only way to try to achieve it. Unfortunately, there is no you can't set different like a multiple queues for it to run on. So But if I'll send you more about multiple jobs with respect to launching them on. Oh, so you have multiple jobs that you'd want to launch on a schedule. Let's say multiple jobs you want to launch on a schedule. Let me just give you. I don't know why I forgot to. I always forget. Let me allow you permission to talk because it'll probably help out, so you can talk more. So yeah, could you give more insight on your use case, Jeff? That'll probably
Yeah,
help me
sorry,
out.
I probably wasn't explaining it very good. I was trying to type
No
it.
worries. Yeah.
Uh, so we overnight in our decision server, we have several jobs that run each night,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all about approximately set to launch about an hour after each other in sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Usually there's no issue, but we had a data situation on the new year which caused one of the jobs to run for about 23 hours.
Oh wow.
And we noticed that none of the other jobs ran on schedule while that job was running.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I was asking about single threadedness with respect to with the jobs with respect to each other, not within a job, but
Okay, within each other. Yeah, that one I'm not sure of. I'm wondering if like you can have it run on a different queue, and I'm wondering if that would stop one of the scheduled jobs. Because at that point, like if I have to, let me just save this one. Let me pick it.
yeah, so this has never come up before because we've never had this issue.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
the most part, everything just kind of runs on schedule. But I guess I don't understand behind the scenes how the jobs are handled.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know if there's a way you can set it up so that if you have several jobs on the scheduled jobs list, can you make sure that like if one's still running, the next one will still kick off on schedule?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's where I think I know we have thread jobs over here where you can see the different thread jobs running for the job scheduler. And I'm wondering, here's what I'm wondering. I'd have to test this out, but that if we have a new scheduled job, I thought I had one. Where'd it go? Go to the dashboard. If I create a new scheduled job and say test one, and then I pick a flow, it just has whatever. I'm gonna pick a calendar, first day of the month. And then I say this is the job Q1, and then that one runs on that. And then if I have another different scheduled job, schedule two,
Oh, okay.
and then I can say this is, schedule Q, this is job Q2. I'm wondering if that won't back it all up because now they're on different queues. I'd have to test that out, but I think that would help solve that issue because if you're all on the same queue and I have 5 jobs run and the first ones fail, well then naturally it would stop, 2 through 4 or 2 through 5 from running because job one is hung. But if I have them all on their own different queues, if job one fails, then job 2 through 5 should still be able to run if I say, hey, override the job queue to run on this one. That's what I would try.
Okay. I can play with that too. I needed this tip, I guess.
Yeah, no worries. That's
Okay.
why we lunch and learn. Or as my good friend Rob says, that's why we're lunching and learning.
Okay. Thanks, Jared.
Mm-hmm. My pleasure.
I might have one thing to add to that, and I'm going to
Please.
confirm that this does exist, but there are different actions that you can set when a job fails a certain amount of times, and if I recall, I thought one of them was that you could run it on a different queue if it fails after a certain number of runs. Um, it's requeue, create tab. No, no, okay, it's not one of the options. Never mind. My
Okay.
bad.
No
Yeah,
worries.
ignore my misinformation.
Yeah,
That is
so in
fine.
my scenario, the job didn't actually fail or get hung. It was really processing. We had a lot of more stuff to process.
I see.
So
Okay. Well,
cool. But
cool.
thanks.
My pleasure. All right. This one, let's see. All right. Grant asks, hey, I'm curious about the use cases for JSON and XML steps. I've come across these steps and wanted to learn more about them. I don't have specific things in particular, just wanted to see them mentioned. I've just seen them mentioned frequently. I thought you might be able to share some. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so many times when we're doing like integrations, a lot of times the data that we get back from that integration will be in the form of JSON or XML. And so what that does, I think I have a small like, am I able to? Let me see if I can find this document. There's a document where I can integrate with like what is it? Anybody remember the dog API team? There was like trying to find
Yeah,
the.
it's just API. I'll find it right now.
Yeah, I wanted to find that because I could create you. We can create one real quick so you can kind of see how that works. I thought there was just a free one. The dog API. Hey, there we go. Okay, cool. So let's see if I can create this real quick. So I can add a REST service, the service name. Just so you know, this is just some random website of me integrating with dogs to pull data. It's going to illustrate kind of the XML and JSON stuff because as you can see here, the data that I get back is going to be in a JSON. And so there's certain things that from a decisions perspective, it will help if we handle it a certain way. And so I'll show that with this example. So I think all I need to do is the service name shall be, I think it's the dog API. Let's do it. Service name is getting dog breeds or getting dog info. Put it that way. And then the service URL is going to be https://dog API.dog. There we go, version 2. That's what I want. Perfect. All right, got information from that. We are all good to go. I don't think there's any authentication for this, so we're just going to go ahead and create that. My method here, this is going to be get breeds. The URL relative to base will be, I can even get facts list. Ooh, let's say get breeds, or maybe I should do get facts. What's the ID? Let's see. The ID is, oh, I don't need ID. Let me do facts because that'll be easier. So I'll say this is going to be get facts. My URL relative to base will be /facts. And we're going to go ahead and that's going to be it. So now what happens is since I created this thing, I can go ahead and where's my flows right here? And we're going to go through small flow. Let me remove all this stuff because I don't need it. And let's go ahead and grab that step. So I'm going to go to integration, internal services, REST service, where it is. And I should getting dog info, getting facts. And let's see if this one runs. Cross your fingers. Hopefully it runs. I think it should. I don't have to troubleshoot too much. Please work, please work, please. Hey, look at that. So it works. And so now what you'll see here is I get this data, right? But you'll notice that it's just one long piece of information, right? It shows me attributes, but let's say I want to get certain properties of this. I want to grab the ID. I want to get, the body. I want to get the, certain pieces of information from this. It's kind of hard right now because when you look at the output of this, it's just a resulted string. And so what you'd have to do then is you'd have to then do a deserialize, process to say, okay, I want to expand the options of this kind of get facts property that I get here. And so what you can do here is you can grab the data and create a data type from JSON so you can output that information. So I'm going to do this here real quick. We'll create a very quick data type to show this where I'm going to go through user defined types, and I can create a type from JSON, create a type from JSON. This is going to be facts data type. My namespace will just be facts. If I can spell it, I can't spell it. Facts. I'm just going to paste the JSON data that I should get. I'm going to select all for this. And so let's go ahead and create this data type. So what that does is I'm utilizing this dog API for the example, is this is the expected output package data from JSON I should get. Some integrations you do will be XML, and you do the same thing that I just did, except you do the XML version of that. Just no difference. So now let's go ahead and I'm gonna move this off the screen. And we're gonna go back to that flow. I think I said more fun. I forgot what it was. Small flow. Yes, haha. So now that I've created this data type, I can now grab the facts data type. And what this does is it says, okay, I'm going to take in your long JSON string that has properties, and I'm going to make it to where now you can access those individual properties. So I'm going to go ahead, let's grab the result, and let's see if this works or if it errors out. I think it I believe I think it will work. So we're going to debug and run this, and boom. And then now when I look at the output here, now I have access to the individual attributes. In fact, there are 4 constellations named after dogs, boom. And so now I can have access to those specific properties of the dog. So if I go here to the JSON deserialize output, it says, okay, let's go ahead and where did it go? Rename, let me save this. I want to see it in the data explorer because I want to expand it. Close and save this, small flow. And I believe that should be ignored. Yeah, I don't know why it does that, but it's always ignored by default. And now when I look at it, I can see the JSON deserialized output. I can expand the data. And notice now I get all of the individual attributes. With my URL on the get facts output, it's just a result string, and it's very hard to get the thing that I need. But if I do this, then I can get access to all the properties. And so that's a lot of use cases where you would deal with like JSON or XML is through some integrations. Or if you have an archaic system that outputs it in a certain data format, you can then utilize these serialization steps to get that information out. So, yep, my pleasure. Alrighty, so that was Grant. I'm gonna answer that one. Okay, Jeremy McNeil asked, best way to compare 2 lists of strings. We are on version 8, the best way. I'm gonna unmute Jeremy McNeil and give me some more information on your use case.
Just, I mean, it's for onboarding, offboarding, and we're looking at adding an option for us to change some information. Like we ask for like a list of software that a new employee might need. And if we need to edit that, I want to have an easy way to compare the original list submitted to the updated list and get the differences to know if there was something added or removed from that list so that I can take action on those added or removed items.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think some of that would be, let's see if I can create a small thing. I think it'd be like, so if let's say we'll make this super simple, create data. I'll grab 2 of these. A lot of what we do is you can say, so let's do, this is original data list. Oh, my keyboard, original data list is list. And we're going to say, let's make it, let's see, I'm going to do a list of names. Gregory, right? This could be your software. It's just, right, it's just text. Gregory, Robert, and Jeremy. And they'll do Jasmine because she's on. I cannot spell your name. I'm sorry. Hold on. I got to do this right. This is. There we go. It's not that hard of a name. My just coffee hasn't kicked in yet. There we go. Awesome. All right. So now I got these 4 names. But now let's say I got this updated list, and I'm going to just create this as updated list. Right, is list. I'm going to set this up as a constant, and let's say I have Jared, Jeremy, and what do I do? Gregory, and then Robert, and then I'm going to leave that there. And then I'm going to remove, not put Jasmine in. So now what you can do is how we can compare is it's basically going to be some type of process that foreaches and says, okay, let's foreach through the items in one list. And then what we're going to do, we can say, is the string in list? String is in list. Oh my goodness. And so you go next. Oops, I don't need this here. Let's see, string is in list. So I have 2 lists that I want to compare. And then what I can do is I can say, okay, is the string, which is my value, coming from this original data list, because that's what I'm looping through. I'm seeing if the updated list, if the items in the original list are also in this updated list that I have here. So what we can do here, since I'm looping through the original list, let me get that configured. Then what we can do is say, okay, check to see if the updated list and the value, and if each value is in the item, which is the iteration of the original list, is it in that updated list? And then what you could say is true or false, right? On the true path, we can say this is create data. True path, if it's in the list, I don't need to do anything with it because it's already in the list, right? And then on the false path, if there's some that is not in the list, then what I can do, let me make this constant because we don't care if this is flow data, case insensitivity true. And then I can put it in a different list, or this could be my send email, or you can say like, hey, this is items missing list. And then what you can do is then you can say, let's get this flow data of the item that's not in there. Oops, I messed it up. I forgot this is a list. Let me go ahead, build the array. Build array. There we go. Over here. There we go, item. And then I can add that to a list, right? So it'd be something like this. And then what you can do is at the end of this process, so if I ran this, it should only run one time over here because it's going to find out that Jasmine is missing in that list, right? So now what I can do is I can say, okay, at the end of this iteration, I can check to see, there's a step called is list empty? List empty, I think. Yeah, is list empty? And so I can say, I can grab that items missing list, and I can say, if that items missing list is empty, which is true, do nothing, but false if it is, if it has something in it, I can send an email, write a database record, or do something with that information. So your logic would look something like this to compare to see what's inside. Now, depending on how large the data is, you may have to use some other steps like a run flow for list if you have to do like a batch process of stuff. But if it's for like, small things like requested items for new hires and you're only gonna have a list of like 5 to 10 things, you can utilize this logic and then have it send you a list of what's missing in that list. So something like that. Was that helpful, Jeremy? Any further questions?
No, that's kind of the path I was going for. I was hoping there might have been like a step that might have that logic in the background already.
Hmm. I gotcha. Yeah, I don't think there's a default step. Well, actually, let's see. Compare two text items. Well, I don't is text is equal. Okay, that's just comparing two text items. I guess if you have to determine if like the text has been modified, that might work. Compare two objects. Compare two objects. So item is null. I think those are the only ones that could default compare. What does documentation say about this? Documentation. Compare objects. Let's look at the step index and let's read this. Compare two objects. Let's read it. Alrighty. So compare two objects is a step that takes in and evaluates whether two objects are of the same data type are identical to one another. As this step compares two objects, the value for each of its inputs must be mapped from elsewhere in the flow and cannot be constantly mapped. Okay, so it looks like it has to be an object and then outputs a list of match pairs for each property. Yeah, so I don't think this would be helpful to account to see if they're the same. Matching two lists of objects. Yeah, it looks like that would probably be the best way. I don't think there's a default step. Now, what you could do is you can probably create you can create this as a flow that will take in like an object and that could do both of these. Like, hey, here's object list 1, object list 2, and then it for eaches and then compares the primitive type at least. And then you won't have to like keep remaking it. You can just subflow this. But yeah, unfortunately, there's no default. Alrighty. Angel Ward asked, it did, let's see. Oh, deep, I found my answer. It's the merge plane. Oh, sounds good. I'm glad. Let's see. Grant asked, when would you want to use a runs flows for list as opposed for a for each step? I've heard you guys mention it on the last LNL and wanted to see a short demo of how one is used. Yeah. So it's because the for each step right here, it's a very visually easy to understand process, right? Because I have a step that will take in a list and then just output the iterator and then output the item index, right? So I know its position, and then I also know the item, and I could do whatever logic I want with that. The problem that you'll I'll come across with is, let's say I have like I can even show you right now. Let's say I have I'm gonna delete this stuff. Let's say I have a fetch entity step, right? So I'm fetching data from a database, and let's say I have, let's see, pick type name folder. There's a ton of folders in decisions. Let's say I want to, for each, and I'll probably have to stop this execution. For each let's say I want to for each all of the folders inside of decisions. And what that's going to do, and I'm just going to add a placeholder just so you can see this. And it'll probably take a while to go through because there's just a lot of data inside of that. Oh, never mind. Actually, that's pretty fast. Let's see if I do what's a bigger one. What has more stuff? Anyone know? I'm trying to think of because if you're, as you can see, if you're doing like the 6,000 records for like low records, it's not that bad. It can process it quickly. The problem is if you process it and then you compare it with something else, then you have a lot of logic. That can cause it to be a little bit slower. We have a great example. Let me go ahead and open this one up. Let's see, sprint examples, Travel Splash. Not Travel Splash, data cleanup, import flow, is we have a, over here on my screen, this is in version 8, it's our internal server where we have examples of all of the different sprint builds and how they're to be built. And in this one, in the use case of this example is we have a file that could have many different numbers of address records that we have to compare with a database of 5,000 records. And so what happens here is if I go ahead and run this, I think I'll probably run this so you can kind of see the different lengths of time. Let's see if I can find where that is. Let's see, test case. Perfect. So let's say I'm going to go ahead and run this. All right, I have to upload a file. No, go away. I have to upload a file. Oh, really? Too many files? Oh, that's why. No. Don't convert. Don't convert. It's really just... There we go. Wow. I can run it. And so this one's a small file, has like 20, a couple of records. And we have a lot of logic that we have to do per, one record. So this one ran pretty quickly. It said, okay, let's go ahead and see the data comparison, right? It does all this stuff in the background. Now, I'm having this step run synchronously. So it's behaving similar to a for each step, where it's just going to process each thing one at a time, which is what a for each step does. Now, if I add a larger file for this, and I import it, you'll see that it will take a lot longer because this file has, I think, 1,000 or 4,000 records in it. And so even though that step is not the for each step, it's behaving like the for each step, where it's going to individually run each record, do a series of calculations to compare if it's in the database. And then finally, when it's done, it will output it, right? So that's why the for each step, if you're doing a lot of calculations, you can have a slower performance of a flow, as you can see here, where mine's still running and it takes a while. Now, what the run flow for list does is it allows you to have a different run behavior. Or now I can say I can run it via different thread jobs, work queues, or I can run async and wait, which just means I will run a flow for each record item. Right, so I have item 1, we run a flow. For item 2, we run the same flow. For item 3, we run the same flow. So there's a flow for each item in that list. So now what this allows me to do is you can specify the batch queue and then the thread count to help you process more records with better performance. So now if I run the exact same file that had a large number of data, go through here, I click import, it'll let you know when it's done, and then it will be a lot more performant. You see that because it's running asynchronously. I don't see the debug executions here. But now this will perform a lot better and faster because of it. So that's kind of the run flows for list and a simple demonstration of it. A couple things to be aware of. It's easy for people to think, oh, for each step, I don't need to use the for each step. I'm always going to use a run flows for list step everywhere. And what they'll do is then they'll be like, hey, my thread count's going to be 300, right? And they'll just kind of go crazy with it. The problem here is the run flows for list, you cannot have more threads than the CPU on the server. So it's not just every time I for each, I'm always going to use a run flows for list, because then what you can do is you'll be in situations where you thread exhaust your CPU because it can't have any more threads than it doesn't have. So you just have to be aware of that. It is leveraging more of the resources on the server, specifically, you have more in control of the resources of the server as it's running. And so you just want to make sure you're aware of that, hey, this isn't just infinite resources. You have to make sure that, okay, this is the amount of threads I can allocate for this, and then I could use it here. So that's something you want to be very, very careful and aware of. Another thing with this step too is notice that this step has the flow, right? And this is the flow that says, okay, I'm going to run this process for each single record inside of it. Now, why is that important? The reason why that's important is because this will have to be developed. It just comes with the step, but it's not developed. And then the other thing to be aware of too is that when you, let's see if I can go ahead in here. When you like deploy this in repository or in other places, you will have to make sure that you verify that that flow. So just kind of remember this name. So we have a flow in here called, where is it? Okay, so it's called edit import run flow for list one. That's what it's called. So what that means is whenever you use that step, if I go to my folder view and I change it to show hidden, right, you will see that now I have my, let's see, not the history folder, I don't want that, but there we go. The import run flows for list one, this flow. So I actually have a hidden flow that lives in the system that controls that belongs to that step. Now, why does that matter? The reason why that matters is I could move my import flow and then that hidden flow won't get carried over. So you want to make sure that as you're deploying or as you're creating things that you make sure that these hidden elements, whenever you use the root collection filter, the run flows for list step, that the other designer element inside it comes along with it. So that's just something to be aware of. It's not just a rip and replace. You want to be very careful when you use it. But it is better for performance of large sets of data. So, sorry, long-winded answer. It's just there's a lot. It's a powerful step, but you can get yourself into some very difficult situations if you don't understand the implications of it and how it's being used. Awesome. All righty. Any other questions? Oh, now I got the black screen of death. Come on, work. There we go. Any other? Give it about 5 minutes. Oh, wait, here we go. Can you increase the amount of data that can be posted to a flow? Increase the amount of data that can be posted to the flow? Not sure what you mean by that. What do you mean by that?
Hey, Jared.
Hey,
Yes, so I've seen an error that for the post to flow type of flow, there is a limit that you can post. So if you post lots of data, it will error out. I was wondering if there is a setting, like timeout setting, and similar for the amount of data. It says something like 3 million bytes or something like that.
Pose to flow. I'm not sure. Test ETFH. Cannot read from data settings. Not sure. I don't know if it's like maybe the recursion limit if it's being called, but that doesn't. I don't think you're
Well,
moving through it.
no. So the actual error was basically the amount of data that you try to post in the post object.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like a large text and it exceeded 3 million bytes or something.
Yeah, nothing I can think of. Can you like paste it in the chat, like what the error is? Because I could probably ask someone on the support dev team. Oh my goodness. I hate it when it does that. Microsoft. Discard, store, bin.
Request body to large. The max request body is copy and paste that.
You can also send it to me via email too, jared@decision.com. Ooh, sweet.
Do you want the full stack?
Yeah, just email that to me, jared@decisions.com. Because yeah, I haven't seen that error, so I'm not sure what the resolution to that would be. Unless in your, well, let's see, what's the integration settings? Read, return results in JSON, allow posts. Automatic storage policy, clear put roll back.
Sorry, did you say jared@decisions.com?
Yep, JARED at
Okay.
decisions.com.
Mhm.
How does perfect? All right. I have gone ahead and asked, and I'll find out because I'm not sure. I don't see any immediate settings that could control it. So I'm not. I'm wondering, is it the? So it's like when you call it, when you run it. No, let's see. I think I might have some information. It looks like.
Do you have like a large file or like text that you
Do I have
can
a
just debug and see if you can use file? I guess you can do it in post data.
call data, payload data? Show me
Payload,
like
yeah,
test a lot of like a lot of text data.
yeah. So it's like 30 million bytes, I guess.
Let's see. Okay, let's see if this is it. See if this does it. I don't think that's big enough, but we'll see. Yeah, that's not. Let's see, let me look at this. There looks like there was a ticket. Oops, that's not what I want. That I can look at. I can give us some more insight. Darn it. Goodness. Okay, there we go. So it looks like it might be hard-coded. Ah, it's the form data limit. Okay. So for doing the 30 megabytes limit. Yeah, so it looks like I'm not sure. I don't think there is a workaround.
So
I
there
guess
is
the
no
best
like a system setting for that.
Nope, that's what I'm looking at.
Okay.
Yep, no, nothing for that. Probably what you'd have to do is find somebody to break it apart.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess
sure.
that's the only thing I think about, but
Yeah.
you know. Alrighty, any other questions? Alrighty, any other questions? I'll give it to a couple minutes. All right. I don't see any more questions. I think we got some good content. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. Thank you so much for attending our very first Lunch and Learn of the new year. What we'll do is we'll go ahead, turn off this recording so we can spin it up and get it posted to YouTube, and you guys can watch it for your reference. So thank you guys so much for attending, and we'll see you guys next week for Lunch and Learns. Take care.